what is success for you guys? What is as you think about every morning, as what is the what does long-term success look like for your company today? What does that mean for you?
Well, I think that the reason we're doing this is to create value for ourselves and our shareholders first. So hopefully, when we look out in 5 years, there's going to be a nice financial outcome for everyone. I think the second part of this is that hopefully we'll build a business that's durable, that's going to be around. My first two businesses, there's parts of me that think we sold out a little early. And then the third part, honestly, it's hard for me to say what that really looks like just yet, because we're really still in the process of trying to figure out what we want to be when we grow up. So our situation this time was a little different than the others from that perspective, where we're not focused on an initial goal. We actually started the company experimenting a little bit more before we started running.
Sahil, how about you? What does success look like for Gumroad?
Yeah. Well, one comment on the last thing is I actually have the opposite reaction, which is like I'm almost afraid to delegate things. I'm so used to building everything myself, and I'm like, how do I do this? And I'm like, wait a second, I have people here to delegate.
You have people now.
It's weird. But it's good. It's good. I've gotten better at it. But what was your question? Something about success. I mean, I try not to think about it too much because it's going to happen regardless of what I think is going to happen. But I think it's just continuing to be independent, trying to build a sustainable product that aligns the business model and the product quality. I joked, didn't really joke actually, but I told Mike Abbott, who's on my board now, last week, he's like, what do you want to do? Like, I want to buy Amazon. So I think that's a good goal. I'm not joking. I want to buy Amazon. That's one of the goals, or one of the goals I have for Gumroad.
And would Jeff report into you, or would he tell me that? Haven't gotten that far.
I haven't really thought about it more than I think there's a lot of similarities between the two companies that would benefit each other a lot.
Yeah.
Would you delegate to Jeff?
I would try. I would be able to do that. I have no idea how the reporting structure would work. Actually, maybe he could take over, or he could be an intern. We'll see. But yeah,
no, cool. That's a huge goal.
But yeah, definitely be independent for as long as possible. I think what we want to do, it requires that. We don't. When we talk to a lot of people, like a lot of the product, like you kind of almost like fight against yourself because you have this like walled garden a lot of the time. Like a lot of the way people get to scale, they build some marketplace, some ecosystem, and then they protect that by making their product worse for people that are outside of it. So Amazon Payments is a great example of that. So is Apple by now. iTunes Connect is using besides literally like a client that Apple owns.
Yeah.
So I think if we could build something without that, it would be really massive. But to do that, we have to be independent. We can't be aligned with Facebook or Twitter or Google or whoever else is a typical acquirer these days. But the other thing is I want to see if I can build a really good company. And you can't really do that if you get bought for $20 million. It's no fun. It's boring.
Charles, how about you? Tell us, and then we'll wrap up. Tell everyone what you're working on at the moment, and with the massive success that you've had with Guitar Hero, what does success look like for you in your latest endeavor?
Yeah. So on the first question, what we're working on. So my brother and I started two companies. The first one is the goal of that sort of the mission is to make the world healthier through video games. And so it's games that you use when you exercise, games that have to do with wellness. So kind of like we envision what We Fit would be in this day and age, and we started making games like that. And that one success is that one's sort of a mission, which is literally we want to make the world healthier through video games. And so the success for that would be measured in in the impact it has on problems like child obesity. And rates of diabetes and things like that. And, obviously we're not going to move the needle on those by ourselves, but I think part of the issue for everybody that is in that industry is that generally video games get blamed for things like child obesity, and to me it's just a medium. It's like television. It's like books. It's not in itself good or evil. It's what you do with the medium. You can use it to do good, or you can use it to do to do evil things. And so we wanted to use it to do do good. And so, you know, the second time around when we envisioned success, it's kind of funny, because a lot of VCs, you know, we'll talk about, they like to invest in people with a track record. And what I've learned is there are classic sort of first-time entrepreneur mistakes, and then there are classic second-time entrepreneur mistakes, right? You don't make the same mistakes, but you make just as many the second time around as you do the first time. And so, you know, trying to adjust to this life as a second-time entrepreneur and figuring out the problems, and, you know, going through the first complete cycle of a company that just goes for years in obscurity and nobody cares about to, I remember the first day after Guitar Hero released, the second morning, somebody stole the sign in front of our company. And I was thinking, like, who the hell would steal our sign? And then we realized it was some fanboy that came by. And that taking off and becoming the best-selling game in the world for 2 years, 2007 and 2008, it peaked out. Guitar Hero sales in our business peaked out at 1.5 billion a year for 2008. To the complete opposite spectrum where it started to decline. So we went 3 years in a row, 1.1 billion, 1.5 billion, back down to 1 billion. And the second time around, somehow we had lost like $300 million in profits when we hit the second time we did $1 billion, to where Activision was already beginning the process of shutting it all down, and we were laying off people, and now the only group that remains from that was the hardware group. So you're going through that entire cycle and seeing, you know, essentially this company go from nothing and struggling for years to becoming one of the biggest, you know, running one of the biggest video game franchises on the planet, to eventually winding almost all of it down. I think that experience sort of gives you a different perspective on what success is. I think when you get through the process, if you've ever been to a company and you've seen massive layoffs, I think success for me longer term is, you know, you keep people whose families depend on this job and are proud and happy to be working. You want to keep that going. It's not sort of a finite thing where we are together and then the company is sold and then people get disbanded. Like, once you've been through that process, you realize how great the experience is with all the people that you've been working with for years. Like, some of you guys, if you haven't been through this a few times, you know, you go through this experience and the people aren't there forever. And but if you build the company right and it has sustainability, you can last forever. You know, when I talk to my friends at Blizzard, you know, when they founded Blizzard, those guys, they've been there, some of them 18, 20 years running that company, right? Which is almost unheard of in the video game industry. And you know, those are the kinds of things that I consider a true success. Is not only were they able to create, probably in my opinion, the best video game developer on the planet, but they've been able to keep the core team together. I think of the core team, the guy that's been there the shortest amount of time has been there 12 years, like the core management team.
Wow.
Able to keep a team like that together and grow a company, I think, is an amazing sort of tribute and measure of success.